Dear brothers and sisters, I welcome you all to hear and see this video message. Today we are going to pray for beedi workers in India. The beedi industry gives the employment for 1 crore people in India. But the beedi rolling women, they spend 8 to 12 hours in a day, but they merely earn rupees 100 to maximum 175 in India, which is lower than the National Minimum Wages Act. So, government should formulate and regulate the beedi workers welfare in India. Reference for this prophecy prayer point from 18th December 2022 Hindu English. Beedi is a product for the poor made by the poorest of the poor in India. According to business standard, the beedi industry made $1.4 billion more than the cigarette industry in 2016. About 7.7% of adults in India consume beedi, which has a market share of 85% of all smoking products. The smoking culture in India is such that the poor cannot afford high quality cigarettes and therefore there is a constant demand for beedis. Every year between 750 billion and 1 trillion beedi sticks are smoked in India by nearly 8% of the population, which makes beedis twice as popular as cigarettes. Beedi making is a multi-crore industry controlled by elites and women at the bottom of the rung. The beedi industry contributed to only 0.65% of the total gross value added by the entire manufacturing industry. Branded beedis controls about 65% of the market, while unbranded beedis have 35% market share. There are about 5 lakh packers in 300 organized sector beedi companies and in thousands of small beedi manufacturing units. There is also a network of huge number of contractors and subcontractors distributing materials and collecting rolled beedis. The beedi manufacturing is a traditional agroforest based industry in India. It is highly labor intensive, predominantly unorganized, and involves 3 major categories of workers as forest based tribal workers who collect tendu or kendu leaves. Second, tobacco growing farmers. Third, beedi rolling home based workers, most of whom are women. The beedi industry employs a large number of workers next to agricultural and construction workers. The production of beedis in India provides employment to nearly 1 crore people. According to the government replies to Rajya Sabha questions, there were 5.59 million employees beedi workers in July 2019. But according to trade unions, the number would be 70 to 80 lakhs beedi workers. It employs about 20 lakh Adivasis and traditional forest dwellers who collect tendu leaves from forests. More than 1.7 million children are involved in beedi rolling in India. About 71% of beedi workers in India are women. Close to 96% of work from home based units, while only 4% are employed in registered establishments or factories. About 80% of the home based beedi workers live in rural areas and 20% in urban areas. Half of the workforce are Muslim and Christian and mostly belong to other backward classes. While West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka have the highest number of women beedi workers, women comprise 84% in West Bengal, 95% in Andhra Pradesh, 84% in Tamil Nadu and 91% Karnataka in the total beedi workers in these states. Beedi workers more often are the most vulnerable sector of the society. The beedi industry is traditionally a female-dominated informal sector, particularly in tobacco processing and beedi rolling. Most of the beedi workers women who operate from their homes and are isolated from the rest of the industrial workforce, and for this reason they are easy target for cross exploitation. While India now boasts a commuter industry akin to Silicon Valley, there are still millions of informal workers such as beedi rollers who earn barely enough to survive and are literally dying for a living. There is a massive gender gap in wages in the beedi rolling industry. Even after rolling 1000 beedis by spend 8 to 12 hours in a day, they merely earn rupees 100 to maximum 175. In fact, women earn less than the national minimum wages of rupees 178 set by the Code on Wages 2019 Act. What women beedi rollers earn only accounted for 24% of the household expenses. Beedi workers earned only 17% of the wages compared to workers in other manufacturing industries. Despite the increase in beedi industry profits from 1.7 billion in 2006 to 12.8 billion in 2011, the wages of beedi workers not increasing considerably. In January 2019, an expert committee appointed by the Union Labour Ministry had recommended that the government should set the national minimum wages at rupees 375. However, under the Code of Wages 2019, the national minimum wage has been set at rupees 178 as of now. In India, beedi industry is the only one in the country which pays wages only on a piece rate basis, based on the number of units of an item that have been produced. Other industries have both a time rate and piece rate. The poorest section were targeted by the brokers who reaped benefits at the expense of poor village women. Wherever there is a union of a strong voice of resistance against such exploitation, these middlemen move to some other poverty block. A lot of Muslim women have been at the receiving end of this exploitation because the middlemen make them believe since they cannot move out of the house, so beedi making is the most viable option available to them. When workers are being increasingly organized, the role of trade union is ensuring that there is collective bargaining of the workers will become either marginal or non-existent as trade unions find it difficult to change the strategies in view of changing conditions. Beedi industry have limited membership base across different states. Trade unions find it difficult to organize women workers to access statutory benefits, although they have fairly good understanding of the situation and needs of the workers. Beedi workers don't have enforceable contracts. Even when legislation exists in an informal economy, it cannot be enforced. Workers' rights cannot be enforced irrespective of whether the sector is technically defined as organized or unorganized. In the absence of contracts, with the new Code on Social Security 2020, which states that women will receive employment benefits only under establishments, Vulnerable home-based workers such as beedi rollers will be left unprotected under the new rules. The study shows that in the unorganized sector in beedi manufacturing, 95.7% of women beedi workers do not have a written job contract, and 93.5% are not eligible for any social security benefits such as pension or gratuity. The situation is only slightly better in the organized sector, where 79.8% of women do not have a written job contract and 47% are not eligible for any social security benefits. Beedi workers not major vote bank for any political party, so none of them have taken their problem seriously. The majority of beedi sector is small scale and unregistered in nature with little employment benefits. The registered beedi manufacturing units are shifting to enterprise employing between 10 and 20 workers. A likely explanation for the preference of small sized units less than 20 workers by the beedi industry could be to avoid providing benefits such as employees' provident fund to workers. Another reason for a switch to smaller sized units might be the tax exemption provided in the pre-GST era and current post-GST era. In its initial phases, the beedi industry was largely confined to the organized sector, but it gradually shifted to the unorganized sector. This shift was attributed to strict government rules, regulations and policies on the organized sector and the tax liberalization in the unorganized sector. Currently, beedi manufacturing units operational in the country can be grouped into two categories, that is registered companies and unregistered companies. The registered companies are the large entities are bound to pay excise duty on their product and are legally bound to follow labor laws, while the unregistered companies have been exempted from tax payments. However, with new GST policy in 2019, enterprises with a turnover of Rs 4 million have been exempted from a tax from the year 2019 to 20. With the introduction of these new norms, nearly 98% of the beedi manufacturing units would stay out of the tax bracket. There is subcontracting in the sector, and this is largely done by the larger units to avoid paying employment benefits to beedi workers and to stay outside the tax system. So there is a need to increase registration of the beedi industry for better administration of taxes and prevention of exploitation of the beedi workers. There is an urgent need to make beedi rolling a part of the formal economy with proper wages and access to supportive health care, health checkups to mitigate the impact on beedi rolling on the health of the poor women and kids. The unregistered sector should be regulated to shift to the registered sector for better accountability and enforcement of legislation, policies, taxation and programs and enhanced welfare measures for the beedi workers. Post-GST worries. While most beedi workers have been pushed out of the formal economy, the implementation of the goods and services tax also appears to have had a negative effect on them. Prior to GST, the Beedi Workers Welfare Cess Act 1976 was in force, and this cess under this law was meant to finance welfare measures for the workers in this sector. However, in 2017, with the rollout of GST, the cess was abolished. After implementation of GST in 2017 and 18, there has been no allocation of welfare funds for beedi workers. Welfare spending for beedi workers without having any dedicated fund is severely impacted on post-GST period. The shift from a factory-based to a home-based study may be largely attributed to the avoidance of financial complaints by factory owners in accordance with labor legislation and various welfare schemes meant for beedi workers. To make beedis, tendu leaf is first soaked in water and then dried. This is followed by the cutting of leaf, filling it with tobacco, dust and rolling. This activity is related to a large number of health problems such as chest pain, breathing difficulty, leg and back pain, tuberculosis, asthma, anemia, etc. 92.5% of women beedi workers suffering from bronchitis, 90.5% women beedi rollers have severe body aches. The health problems are primarily due to the inhalation of large amounts of tobacco dust during beedi rolling and sitting in the same position for 8 to 10 hours a day. Women workers spend around 29% of their average annual income on treatment and medication for health-related concern. At least 2.5% of workers had a higher health expenditure than their income from beedi rolling. Also, beedi workers' fingerprints have faded as a result of making beedis by handling tobacco dust and rolling them into tendu leaves and diminishing fingerprints, which in turn is a loss of identity. More than half of the women beedi workers want to shift to another profession. Government must devise skill development opportunities that are in keeping with the capabilities of the people involved in beedi rolling. For example, merely handing out tailoring machines to everyone is not the solution. Skill building and alternative employment would provide better job quality, wages, social security and employment benefits to them. Further, there needs to be a market survey to determine the kinds of jobs that are in demand, whether in the agricultural supply chain or industrial sector or service sector. The prime objective of industrial cooperative is to benefit the workers socially and economically. The industrial cooperative societies should form for beedi workers to develop self-reliance, cooperation and self-respect among the members by undertaking various manufacturing and allied activities needed for the welfare and well-being of the member and the society. The industrial cooperative society will play a crucial role in local economic development through gainful employment. In beedi industrial sector, Kerala Dinesh Beedi, the Central Cooperative Society has a major role. Kerala Dinesh Beedi workers are much less likely to be in debt to money lenders than are other beedi workers in India. At Kerala Dinesh Beedi, workers can borrow from the cooperative own thrift fund at no interest, with repayment automatically deducted from their pay over an extended period. Kerala Dinesh Beedi's female workers can be pregnant without fear of loss of employment. Kerala Dinesh Beedi is now engaged in activities to diversify their product line from beedi to other areas such as coconut products, cashew products, food processing, garments, curry powder, commuter training courses, etc. by leveraging their brand name. This business model should replicate in all states of India. Cooperative societies avoids profit of the company going to capitalists. Although it is a democratic arrangement of industrial production, the cooperative movement in India could not achieve the success which is achieved in European countries like Denmark and Sweden. The wage rate for beedi workers are unfair, largely decided by the middleman. Either the company or agent or middleman decide the wage rate. They target the poorest and the most vulnerable of women to ensure that they do not know who their employers are. Since the beedi workers belongs to the disorganized sector and are scattered over across the states, they had been denied legislative protection by the manufacturers. But the employers, on the other hand, have amassed huge profits and the beedi industry has grown at the expense of labor. The beedi industry does not make any significant economic contribution to the Indian economy. Only owners of these industries benefiting from manufacturing beedis, whereas beedi workers, consumers and the government appear to be at the losing end. Employees in the unregistered sector receive no welfare benefits. The shift towards small size units might be reflect of contractualization to enjoy excise tax exemption which was prevalent during the pre-goods and service tax era. Better regulation of the sector by mandatory registration of the beedi firms together with high GST taxes without exemption will lead to improved revenue, improvement of work conditions and act as a tobacco control measure too, as consumption is price elastic in nature. Rising taxes on beedis can raise billions of rupees in tax revenue and prevent millions of people from smoking. Group insurance scheme for the beedi workers should introduce under the Social Security scheme, and the Beedi Workers Welfare Fund should regenerate and need a hospital exclusively for beedi workers. Beedi industry should comes under the Cooperative Societies. Bible talks about beedi workers welfare. In Deuteronomy chapter 24 verse 14, you must not oppress a hired servant who is poor and needy, whether he is of your brethren, of your foreigners who are in your land inside your gates. In Job chapter 29 verse 12 and 13, I rescued the poor who cried out and the fatherless and the one who had no helper. Words of blessing came on me from those who had been about to perish, and I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. So kindly pray and prophesy in the name of Lord Jesus Christ that minimum wages for beedi workers should set as rupees 375 in all states of India by piece rate and time rate computation. Should make 100% registration of all beedi industries as micro small scale industry, and all the beedi making industries should come under cooperative societies to ensure better administration of taxes and prevent exploitation of workers. Beedi rollers and tribal workers who collect tendu and kendu leaves should come under enforceable contracts to avail Social Security Benefit Scheme by making amendment in Code on Social Security 2020 Act, and 4% cess should be levied for beedi products and to utilize as Beedi Workers Welfare Fund. Skill building and alternate employment opportunities should be arranged by state governments. Group insurance scheme made available for beedi workers and need a exclusive hospital for beedi workers in beedi making hubs. Trade union should form in all areas of beedi making industries, such as for tribal workers who collect tendu and kendu leaves, tobacco growing farmers, beedi rollers across all states of India to prevent exploitation by capitalistic employers. And 28% of the GST should maintain for beedi to deterrent of smoking millions of citizens of India. Amen.